أعزائي المستمعين، الآن ينضم إلي الصديق وأيضا current state representative and incoming Dearborn Mayor, Mr. Abdullah Hammoud, who is joining us via Zoom, and we truly appreciate his time and effort to join us. So Representative Hammoud and incoming Mayor Hammoud, welcome to US Arab Radio.
Thank you so much for having me, Adel.
If we can start, for those who don't know you, just to give us a brief intro about you, when you started running for public office, and obviously to talk a little bit about your race for Dearborn Mayor, what triggered that, although you still have 1 year to go on the state representative. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. For those who have never met, my name is Abdullah Hammoud, born and raised in the city of Dearborn, son of 2 immigrant parents, second oldest of 5 children. And for me, Dearborn is a home. This is the place that I grew up, the place I went to public schools, or I went to get my bachelor's degree at Henry Ford College during high school for dual enrollment. And for me, giving back is just it's a means of doing what I can for the city of Dearborn in terms of giving back to the city of Dearborn and how it gave to me everything that I had. The financial success, the social opportunities, those are the reasons that my parents first came to Dearborn, Michigan. And now I'm, privileged to have the opportunity to be in public office to try to do what I can to uplift residents all throughout the city of Dearborn. And so we first ran for office back in 2016. To be the state representative, to run on issues, for expanding healthcare access, issues of environmental justice, to push back on corporate pollution up in the city of Lansing against major corporate polluters. And we've done I like to say we've done a pretty good job over the last 5 years. And the opportunity presented itself to run for mayor. This was a means of just elevating the level of public service that I've been doing. Being in a position where you have a little more authority to effectuate a little more positive change. So when the opportunity presented itself, we said, why not? We've been in Lansing for 5 years, and I think we've demonstrated our ability to build teams because no one person can create change. And we can build a team that is trusted by the residents of Dearborn, that is respected by the residents of Dearborn, and that's accessible by the residents of Dearborn in order for us to push forth an agenda that actually addresses key issues that working families face.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your win, Abdullah. Obviously, currently you have a transition team formed, and they are currently meeting and reviewing applications for your next team. Can you please shed light into that and how residents can get involved?
Yeah. So we have a town hall today at 6 o'clock. Also, if I can make that announcement here, and we're going to walk through basically what the timeline is for our transition team. But to your point, we put together an 8-person transition team, and we have a transition director. Most of the transition team members people are familiar with because they're mostly Dearborn residents. The transition director is probably a name that's least familiar by many people. Marianne Udall Phillips. Marianne is actually my mentor. That's who I first went to work for when I first graduated with my master's in public health back in 2012. She is somebody who understands the political systems, the governmental systems. She was a former appointee by Governor Granholm, leading one of the largest departments in the state of Michigan, and founded a healthcare think tank at U of M, where I ended up working for her. So she's just a brilliant mind who has, who's very knowledgeable in this space. Now, we launched a website, dearborntransition.com. And in order for you to get involved, what we're asking people to do is go to dearborntransition.com and submit our community survey. Tell us what is your vision, or what vision you have for the city of Dearborn, what ideas you'd like to share with the incoming administration for the city of Dearborn. If you have any passion areas or areas of experience, we also provide kind of like a checkbox area where you can check a box. If you're passionate about public health, if you're passionate about the environment, if you're passionate about zoning and planning, you can check those boxes and then select if you're interested in receiving an appointment at a later time to serve on a board or a commission that touches on the area that you selected. What we've learned is, the mayor obviously has appointment powers to various boards and commissions throughout the city of Dearborn. What we did ask and what we have found out is you cannot replace appointments midterm. And so we have to wait for people's appointments on those commissions and boards to wind down before we appoint new individuals. Or we have the ability to ask for people to resign off those boards and commissions if we want to add anybody to those boards and commissions. So that's one. Secondly, we also have a careers page. If you go to the careers, kind of join us section on the Dearborn Transition website, there's an opportunity for you to indicate if you want to join the administration. Now, our focus right now, the mayor only has powers to appoint the directors of the city, and not all the directors. 90% of the directors are appointed by the mayor. The library commission, the library director is appointed by the library commission. The HR director is appointed by the civil service commission. So there's some, the city engineer, although like director level, is not an appointment. So there are many positions that are not within the power of the mayor to appoint. What will happen is once we get into office, if those job openings open up, people can submit to the regular process. So we're doing two things. One, we're collecting resumes, specifically targeting those directorships that I can appoint, trying to see, because a lot of faces will be retiring. Second is we're also trying to start a resume bank. We're trying to have strong resumes on file. So when we get into office and as these positions begin to open up over, a matter of, 6 months to a year, we can contact these individuals and say, hey, you previously submitted that you were interested in working in the city of Dearborn. Is it still the case because the job opportunity is coming up? And now we'd like for you to submit to the formal process. Because as you know, many of the jobs in the city of Dearborn are civil service positions. And so there's a standard protocol that's in place that has to be followed where the mayor does not have say into who receives a job. And we're going to walk through that process hopefully later today.
One of the major concerns that many Dearborn residents had about the city's makeup, about especially the directors, many were good people. They did some great things to our community, and they still do. However, others were absent. Let's say the full truth, and or they were not heavily invested in Dearborn. Is that Dearborn talent is direly needed on in its own administration. So is that something that you have in mind, that a person, for example, especially at the director level, do they have to live in the city? Do they have to care or have a huge stake in the city in order to be an employee? And it's not just, a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of like the residency requirements piece, technically by law, you can't mandate the residency requirement. As a mayor, because these are appointments, it's at my will. If I want to appoint somebody, and certainly I can make the determination if I would, determine if I want to appoint somebody, obviously based on where they live. Now, personally, I strongly believe that if people are living in the city, they're far more invested in the city. And there are certain positions that I just will want to ensure that the person is a Dearborn resident, but not for all positions. I'll be 100% honest. If we have a super qualified individual who lives outside the borders of the city of Dearborn, I don't want to pass up on the best because of that caveat. But what I will do is ensure that I have a culture within the city of Dearborn administration that those who work here, it's not simply a 9-to-5. That you have to be heavily invested, because what we're doing each and every single day is trying to uplift the voice of residents throughout the city. And so it's more than just you live here. It's also a cultural aspect internally, and that's what we'll try to address if a director does not live here. Excuse me.
Yeah. One very important thing is about transparency, and how local government is very transparent with residents and letting them know of what's happening behind the scenes, what are the things that they need to be aware of, meeting notices, public comments in meetings. As a mayor, what would you do to increase that transparency and be up close to the folks? And also the other piece is the technology piece, where a lot of people think, the city of Dearborn is definitely lacking in that department, very lacking. So what are the two things that you will be embarking on to improve those two areas?
To believe that we've done a fairly good job on transparency so far. I mean, the night of the election, we launched our transition website. We've already put out there, how to participate and make your voice heard with the next administration through our survey. We've announced publicly who our transition team is. We've held several community conversations. Today, we have a Zoom at 6 p.m. And we're inviting residents all across the city to submit their questions in advance and to participate in the Zoom live, to submit your questions live in order for me to try to best address them. I think it's that kind of culture that we have demonstrated since the outset of winning this election, but also something that I've shown over my last 5 years as state rep. I've held more coffee hours and town halls than any other elected in the city during my time, because I want to make sure that I'm accessible. I want to make sure that I'm transparent, and that's something that will continue. We have many a plan to try to use, the Zoom, which is obviously just a modern way of just meeting with people these days, to have frank conversations with residents about what's happening, to provide updates periodically from inside the halls, from inside the walls of the city hall about what we're doing each and every single week. So people know what we're actually working on. And when it comes down to technology, we are certainly lacking. And that's a big area that we need to explore and change. Something we're looking at developing, obviously, is rebranding the city website and redeveloping the whole city website, making sure it's also accessible in multiple languages. I think it's kind of a shame that we still don't have accessibility in the Arabic language, but also trying to modernize the city and move towards having a city app where you might not always have to pick up the phone and call to access somebody, where you can submit a request through your phone, just like you would in any other service, and that somebody will get back to you in a timely manner. And so we're going to do what we can in the best way we can. Obviously, things will take time, but we're excited at the opportunity. And the first things, to your point earlier, is about building a team that's competent and that has the skills to address these issues.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear. I've been asking the administration for at least a 411 system or what do they call it? A 311 system where if you log a complaint about something, that it will be tracked, somebody will follow up with you, and you don't have to keep on doing, Tom and Jerry stuff to chase employees about what happened with your complaint or with your request. It would be very easy for everybody, for the employees and also for the residents, and that would be great. We have a call from our listener, Jerry Habba, who always calls and has amazing questions. So let's take him and let's take your answer, Abdullah.
Thank you, Mr. Adel Mozip. Good morning to you, and good morning to our representative, Mr. Abdullah Hammoud, the next mayor of the great city of Dearborn. Mr. Hammoud, good morning. This is Jerry Habba. I congratulate you. A history was made November the 2nd, 2021, as you represent the first Arab, Middle Eastern American to be the next mayor of this great city. And congratulations to all the rest of the candidates who they won on that day, and even the ones they lost. We appreciate their effort. Mr. Abdullah Hammoud, my question to you is, as the next mayor of the city of Dearborn, and is Mr. Abdullah Hammoud will have any plan to make Dearborn, the city of Dearborn, the Mecca of the Middle Eastern people, the Arab people, the Chaldean people, outside the border of our homeland country in the Middle East? Similar, like an example, Mr. Abdullah Hammoud, we heard there is a Chinatown, there is a Greek town, and even the Bengali brothers, they call Hamtramck. When you enter Conant from 8 Mile, they go, welcome to the Bengali town. Even the next mayor of Hamtramck is Dr. Amir Ghalib. So I would love to hear your answer, Mr. Abdullah Hammoud. Congratulations, and I wish you the best. And thank you to Mr. Adel Mozip, who is there to represent all of you. So thank you to you again.
Thank you so much for your question.
Answer. And to Ms. Layla Al-Husseini on her radio talk show. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you so much, Jerry. And so thank you sincerely. To your question about will we make Dearborn basically the Arab American capital, I think Dearborn already is the Arab American capital. I mean, we're the largest concentration of Arab Americans outside of the Middle East. And so nothing that I need to do. I think that's that's a given. I think Dearborn is recognized as the Arab American capital across the country. Now, in terms of recognition or designation, I should say, of certain corridors as, to your point, a Chinatown or a Bangladesh town or whatever else it might be. I think certainly that idea has been talked about for quite some time. I think there's actually been in the works to claim the Warren and Schaefer corridor as the souk, kind of, the market space in the Arabic tongue. And so I think there's conversations that have already been had. And I'm certainly up to explore what we can do from a marketing perspective to better brand many of our downtown districts, be it West Michigan Avenue, East Michigan Avenue, the Vernon Dix corridor, the Southwest Business District, the Warren and Schaefer corridor, whatever we can do to better brand ourselves and position ourselves to attract more residents from outside the city of Dearborn to help support our small businesses. So whatever we can do, I'm all for it.
That's great. Abdullah, we will take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll talk more about your upcoming plans for the city, and then as well as the historic election, being you're being the first Arab American mayor for the city of Dearborn. I believe the second Arab American mayor in the state of Michigan after Al Haydous was a mayor of Wayne County or Wayne City. So we'll take a commercial break and we'll be back.
بعد تطعيم أكثر من 3 بلايين شخص حول العالم بشكل كامل بلقاح كوفيد-19 تمت الآن الموافقة على تلقيح الأطفال من عمر 5 إلى 11 سنة. فقد أثبتت الدراسات بعد تجارب سريرية مع أطفال حول العالم أن جرعتي اللقاح المخصصة لهم آمنة وفعالة. يوصي الأطباء بتلقيح الأطفال من سن 5 فما فوق من أجل حماية الأصحاء منهم أو ذوي الظروف الصحية الصعبة. الطفل جزء من المجتمع وهو معرض لأن يصاب بالفيروس ويمكن أن يحمله لعائلته ولمن حوله. احمي طفلك وعائلتك ومجتمعك. لقح طفلك ليكون بأمان في المدرسة أو مع العائلة والأصدقاء وأثناء ممارسة الرياضة. تحدث لطبيبك واكتشف الحقائق بنفسك أو زر موقع michigan.gov/kidscovidvaccine. رسالة من وزارة الصحة والخدمات الإنسانية في ميشيغان.
مركز طب رهاب للعلاج الطبيعي بإدارة الدكتور محمد فرح حسين، أخصائي العلاج الطبيعي بخبرة أكثر من 13 عاما. طب رهاب يقدم خدمات العلاج الطبيعي وإعادة التأهيل، ويضم مجموعة من أفضل أخصائي التشخيص الدقيق للحالات المرضية مع خبرة عالية في التعامل مع الحالات التي تحتاج إلى إعادة تأهيل وعناية خاصة بعد العمليات والكسور. طب رهاب يستقبل كل الحالات المتعلقة بألم الرقبة، الظهر، المفاصل، شلل الوجه، الانزلاق الغضروفي، عرق النساء، الحوادث وإصابات العمل. خبيرات في المعالجة النسائية لخصوصيات تامة للسيدات. عندما تبحثون عن رعاية متميزة اقصدوا طب رهاب للعلاج الطبيعي الواقع على 15001 ميشيغان افنيو، وللمواعيد اتصلوا على 313-846-0555. That's 846-0555.
أنا جو برزة، شيف مطبخ لبناني من أكثر من 30 سنة. بأغلبية سفراتنا ببلدان العالم بنواجه مشاكل اللي كتير مهمة بالمطبخ اللبناني وبالمطبخ العربي. زياد طلعوا بسولوشن، عملوا اللي باودر زيرو فات وحلال، طعمتها كتير طيبة. ميرسي لزياد.
مراكز IVF ميشيغان للخصوبة وأطفال الأنابيب الرواد في مجال الطب التناسلي، تعلن عن استقبال مراجعيها في بلومفيلد هيلز ومراكزها المنتشرة في ميشيغان وأوهايو، حيث يتواجد أمهر الأخصائيين لتقديم الاستشارات في جميع مجالات التلقيح الصناعي. يعتبر الدكتور نيكولاس شما أحد أهم الأخصائيين في الغدد الصماء التناسلية في ولايتي ميشيغان وأوهايو، حيث أجرى أكثر من 10,000 عملية طفل أنبوب، وساعد الآلاف من الأزواج على تحقيق حلم الأبوة. يحمل الدكتور شمة شهادة البورد الأمريكي في كل من أمراض النساء والتوليد، أمراض الغدد الصماء، التناسلية والعقم، رعاية طبية ممتازة وتفهم عميق للأثر العاطفي والنفسي لحالة العقم. للاستفسار اتصلوا على 248-952-9600 248-952-9600. مرحبا سعيد.
اهلا علا.
ليش هالمقابلة الفاترة هاي؟ بيقول المثل لاقيني ولا تغديني.
يمه زعلتي، شنو رايك اذا لقيتك وايضا غديتك باحسن مطاعم ميشيغان، مطعم عشتار؟
والله فكرة، افضل الاطباق والمقبلات العربية والعراقية واحلى ملقا.
ولا تنسين اللحوم الطازجة مباشرة من ملحمة عشتار لزباين عشتار. وملحمة عشتار توفر اختيارات متنوعة من كافة انواع اللحوم وباسعار متميزة وجودة ايضا مميزة. ملحمة عشتار تقع على 36865 راين رود في مدينة ستيرلينغ هايت.
واكيد احلى لمة واطيب لقمة في مطعم عشتار اللي عنوانه 3625 15 مايل رود في مدينة ستيرلينغ هايت. هاتف 586-698-2585 586-698-2585.
يلا علا،
يلا عشتار، للجودة وكرم الضيافة عنوان.
مطعم عشتار.
And welcome back, US Arab Radio listeners. This is Adel Mozip welcoming you back to the show. Today is Monday, the 29th of November. We are hosting incoming Mayor and State Representative Abdullah Hammoud for the city of Dearborn. And we're discussing his historic win as well as his plans for the next 4 years for the city of Dearborn as his term begins January 1st. Or whenever he's sworn in. Can you tell us, Abdullah, about your swearing-in ceremony?
Yeah, thank you so much. And so we technically assumed office, January 3rd, regardless of the actual swearing-in ceremony. The swearing-in ceremony, the way it's looking right now, and we're hoping to announce it actually today after the Zoom, potentially January 15th, which is a Saturday. It's 2 weeks after New Year's, making sure people who are with their families kind of calm down with the COVID exposure. But it's also just, it's the first Saturday that really works for everybody. Okay. And so we're excited to announcing that. It'll probably be an early afternoon, 1 o'clock type of event for an hour and a half. Sure. It'll be myself, the city council, and as well as the city clerk.
So obviously, Abdullah, this was a historic win, as I mentioned before. And when Hamtramck first had their first Muslim council or majority council, it was all over the news. Same with your win, it was also all over the news. How does that come to you? Is that something that obviously a distraction sometimes when people just try to focus on your identity and your religion rather on your qualifications? It has been obviously a problem for many, but what was your reaction to the major news networks, obviously covering the election and covering your win?
It's a great question. I was actually just talking about this to a bunch of friends. For me, it was strange to see the type of attention that the win got, Because if you ask me what I did on Wednesday I was back at the Hammoud eating a scissor sandwich and just, going about my day as I normally would throughout Dearborn. And so I was just surprised to see, sometimes being inside of Dearborn, I guess we don't realize how well known Dearborn is across the country and across the globe. That we are recognized as this hub of not only Arab America, but of immigration. In this city that is diverse and that's beautiful, that's rich and vibrant, and that can be the example. We're obviously the hometown of Henry Ford and Ford Motor Company, and so we have a lot of these assets and characteristics that make us this nationally recognized city. And so it was strange. Now, I think it was, to your point, it was a bit frustrating that obviously the talking point perpetuated as just it's this historic one, first Muslim, first Arab. How does it feel? How does it feel? But you use those moments as opportunities to talk about the issues impacting the residents of Dearborn, to try to capture some attention in the 30 seconds to 2-minute interviews that you have, but to really speak to what's happening on the ground, and hope that somebody is listening. And so in each and every single interview, what I tried doing was focusing on the flooding and the infrastructure problems that we have in the city of Dearborn, knowing that infrastructure is the #1 topic right now in Washington, D.C.
It is.
And we do that from a strategic point to hopefully capture the attention of the Biden administration or any other officials throughout, his departments, to maybe say, oh, wow, Dearborn is trying to focus on infrastructure, was devastated by flooding, has a lot of, woes that need to be addressed. Maybe Dearborn can be the example for how we modernize the city. And so that was our strategy going into all these interviews. Somebody asked me, what does it mean to be the first? I quickly pivot and say, we never ran to be the first, we ran to be the best. And these are the issues that we ran on, and trying to address those issues. So, although frustrating at times, it certainly provided us with an opportunity to speak about Dearborn, which I think is always a positive, as long as we're speaking about it in a positive way, and to begin to try to, shed light on some of those issues.
Sure. You mentioned, obviously, Dearborn being the hometown of Henry Ford, and we have the major automotive company, Ford Motor Company. I'd like to know your take on the next relationship right now with this major corporate partner in our city. How do we take it to the next level, especially that we are, as you said, an old city that has old infrastructure. We have old schools, we have older buildings. We're not like Northville, we're not like, other cities that are pretty new and they have newer infrastructure and they don't face the same issues that we're facing. I mean, the flood in June devastated many families who were finding this place as home and now probably looking elsewhere because they're definitely tired of getting hit not just once but twice or 3 times.
Yeah. To your point, 20,000 homes experienced flooding in the city of Dearborn out of 35,000. So just to think about 67% of our homes experience flooding. It's a disaster. Now,
and it's not only, sorry to interrupt, it's not only the monetary damages, but also the psychological damage that we've experienced. It's like now every time it rained, it's like anxiety. We have PTSD of like, is this going to happen again?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's because, we flooded 3 or 4 times, depending on where you live over the last 7 years. And people now just expect to flood after, during a heavy rainfall. And it's not something that our residents should come to expect or have to live with, thinking about in the back of their mind. So that's why for me, it's the #1 issue that we have to address. Now, in terms of relationship with Ford, now for 5 years as state rep, I've cultivated a very strong relationship with Ford. And on my transition team is a member of Ford's government relations team, Stephanie Fries, who's also a resident of the city of Dearborn, which I think is, captures both. And so we get her perspective not only as a Dearborn resident in the Southwest, from the Southwest neighborhoods, but also as a government relations, expert in her respective field, also as a representative of Ford Motor Company. And so we wanted to make sure that we demonstrated respect to Ford Motor Company, knowing that Ford's success is Dearborn's success and the two are synonymous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because we have a lot of key issues that we have to address. We know that Ford is selling a lot of their properties and their lands in the city of Dearborn. We know that Ford, there's been large talks previously about Ford purchasing the train station. And what does that mean for Dearborn's future? Is Ford trying to move its capital towards Detroit? And I don't think that's the case. And so what we wanted to do was pull Ford in from the early on and demonstrate that, hey, we want to be working partners. Not sure how things were always done in the past, but your voice is valued and respected. Not to say that we're going to agree on everything. You're never going to agree on everything. But we're going to find ways to compromise on the difficult issues and hopefully push one another to see what we can do to ensure that, long-term sustainability, and trying to come together and bring the most brilliant minds to address some of these key issues that are impacting, not only residents of Dearborn, but also Ford's hometown and the homes of many of its employees, which I think it has a greater stake in.
Abdullah, obviously with right now, you being mayor, we also had a historic election of city council where we have now 3 to 4 Arab Americans on city council. How are your relationship gonna be shaped with this council to put the best ordinances, to put the best vision for the city?
It's a great question. I have cultivated fairly strong relationships with just about all of those council members over my years as state representative.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, strong working relationships, at least we know of one another and we get along, and that's always a great start to try to cultivate a professional relationship. What I have done since since winning the election, I've also reached out and I've asked them to start thinking about what agenda or what would they like to accomplish within their first year. Is it an ordinance that they're trying to get done? Is it an ordinance that we're trying to get undone, that we're trying to repeal? Because Dearborn is obviously very ordinance heavy. Is it an appropriation that they're looking to see? Obviously, people know that we, during this election, we also lost the supplemental operating millage.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
And I'll go into it. So for me, I've already reached out and asked them to start thinking about what they want to accomplish. And the reason I do that is, it's a partnership. For me, in order for me to advance and move Dearborn forward, I need the help and support of council. And it's not, Hammoud who's doing. It's hopefully this administration collectively, plus councils, who'll be doing together. And that's how we move the city of Dearborn forward. It's when we're all willing to share kind of the work and hopefully sharing the successes that come along with it. Now,
so on the supplemental millage, obviously you ran on lowering property taxes for residents and giving them relief.
Yeah.
Probably this was done before you took office, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was a thin razor split
Margin.
Of people, thinking that the city already has enough resources. Some residents believe that they can do with what they have. The supplemental millage was supplemental. It was there to give the city a boost during the economic downturn during 2011, and it was not supposed to be renewed. So now, how are you going to deal with this kind of budget shortfall, since it is because the previous mayor had more access to funds than you, and I think it's estimated at $15 million a year. So how are you going to deal with that financially?
I don't have all the details yet. It's something that we'll be working on for the first 6 months. But to your point, we certainly ran, my plan was, I was hoping to have at least 3 years to put our plan into practice. But now we have 6 months. And so, I'm not going to complain about it. The goal is, we asked, the silver lining to this, I guess I should say, is, if we meet it in 6 months, we'll be able to lower our property taxes, and hopefully without cutting services, we'll be able to reach that. And so what we want to make sure what we do is lower those property taxes without cutting services. That's obviously the goal, and we have 6 months to do it. And so I'm excited to be working in. It's obviously not something that we expected walking in on day one, but to my point, we're ready to meet that challenge and to deliver on what the residents of Dearborn expect, which is a efficient and smooth city of Dearborn government that's operating to the best of its abilities for the residents of Dearborn. And so, I'm not too concerned about it. I think we have to meet that challenge, right? You have no choice. So we will meet that challenge.
The last thing that I have for you, Abdullah, and we can close with this, obviously the environment. You have been a strong advocate for environmental justice, especially in the area of the South End, and something that has been an area of your concern when you ran as state representative and also as mayor. What is the city can do besides now the fugitive dust ordinance, and also making sure that corporate partners in our city do their part in order to have a cleaner environment and cleaner air?
Yeah, I think one, my election of mayor to mayor is a signal to many of the corporate partners in the city of Dearborn, because, I've worked with them, whether it was, at odds on many an issue or on the fugitive dust ordinance. And so they're very well aware of what my platform is and what my beliefs are on environmental justice. And so I think we have opportunities to pull them in closer to try to address some of these issues, not always through an ordinance, but just through good faith of trying to have them make the changes that we're looking for without it always having to be written down in the ordinance that's passed. Secondly, we can strengthen our fugitive dust ordinance, something that we'll be looking to do. We can look at the truck idling ordinance, which hasn't passed yet, something that we want to explore and ensure is put into place. And so, another thing you can look for is we're looking at restructuring the city departments right now, trying to bring a more public health focus to the environmental aspect. And so we're hoping, I can't speak to it just yet, but as we restructure the city of Dearborn as departments, you'll see a more public health focus emerge, and that public health culture will effectuate each and every single department throughout the city of Dearborn. And that's hopefully something that will make positive change for our residents, because we're not going away. Just as strong as I was, hopefully, as state representative, my hopes is that we build an administration that's even stronger.
Incoming Mayor Abdullah Hammoud and the current state representative for District 15, City of Dearborn. Thank you so much for joining us today in this lively discussion. This will be available on YouTube on an edited version. For those who would like to view the podcast, it will also be on Facebook Live. Once again, thank you and best wishes.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.